Alright, welcome back to World of Walkers, where we talk about walkers and all things Ark of War. I am Deranged 87, and today we are talking about King. Yeah, let's jump right into this. I'm going to try to do this video in 15 minutes or less. That way, you guys get the information, you have the information, and we can roll from there. Starting out, so King is a free release event commander, so you have to catch him during one of the commander events that they have going on, whether it's amount of releases that you need to do or some special tier that you have with a gold spend or gold charge. So just look for them. They release them probably every 3 months. You'll see them roll around, sometimes more than that. His skill is a special skill, though. It's much like Hoodoo's Death Rattle in one sense, as it is a 100% guaranteed skill, but it's situational. So just like Plasma Bomb or Death Rattle, whereas the alternative would be like Gilly has 100% preemptive. When she fires off her preemptive at the beginning of the round, it lasts 1 round, or Hancock Shield. So there are some 100% skills out there, but the specific type of skill is situational. He has to miss his target, and if he misses his target, he has a 300% damage increaser from the normal attack damage. So we'll get into that here in just a second. What do I love about King? I love King because he can be played 2 different ways. One is the way that he's utilized mainly right now as a utility commander. He's great to throw Sui on, strength and weaken gear, go against infantry, so infantry know him for coming in and just clearing out any of the infantry that are there. He'll absorb the damage, but he can actually deal out a bunch of damage right back without needing a bunch of attack. And that's kind of a specific situation where a low leader commander can fight a much higher lead commander with that gear set. What I don't like about King is that his second skill does not crit. So it basically is crit damage built into it, if you think of it that way. But you're not going to get any gain from adding crit damage to it. You're not going to get any gain from adding crit rate to it, crit gems. And his first skill, this is what drives me nuts. I hate this class of commander like Galileo and Grievous, and it's these commanders that you really need to build them defense, but they're built off of their offensive skills. And so this one is kind of a bit different because it has a damage increase skill, but it also has a crit rate increaser. And so that always bothers me. Now, he does benefit from the attack increaser at level 60. It's about 90% added attack on top of it. So that's something that does go into the factor that'll help that 300% damage increaser. Yeah, so that's the first setup, would be kind of a Sui setup that we'd play with him. But let's get into if you were going to main King. Everybody asked me about King by popular demand. It's just a commander that has a lot of appeal. So let's get into this. The first piece of gear that everybody's going to gravitate towards is the Natural Whisper, and that's with the negative accuracy on top of it. If you get this thing up to level 40, man, that's 300% Walker HP that you can add on top of it. It's also 150% crit wither. So it is a formidable piece of equipment, and it's the piece of equipment that seems like it's slotted just for King himself. You get into the rest of the gear. I'm going to have to go with Titans. Titan, you want to be able to get all attack gems, so take a lot of the accuracy out, take the crit gems out. I don't really see those being beneficial. Run with all attack. The more attack that you have, and the less accuracy that you have, the higher chance of getting that 300% damage increaser. And we'll get into some of those numbers here in just a second. I kind of threw those in a graph. Actually, let's jump into that. So, just looking at this, you'll see here, if you had, let's say, 100 units that died from the attack damage, basically, if you were going to crit, it would be twice the amount of that attack damage. So we'll say 200 for that. And then if you had 150, so basically Magiwell Pants at level 40, 150 crit damage, goes up to 350, and we're just going to call these units that were killed. If all the math evened out, and that's what it came out to. Mind's Eye is with that same 100 attack damage, would put you right below that 150 crit damage if you were to crit. The beautiful part about it is that you don't need to crit to hit Mind's Eye. So if somebody's running 600% crit Wither, which is kind of the meta right now, everybody's going to crit Wither, and there's reasons for that, you can still have a crit level attack in the middle of a crit Wither meta. So, we talked about penetration a little bit with different commanders. Penetration would affect his attack damage, Mind's Eye skill. It's just where do you put it in without sacrificing attack? And that's going to be the compromise that you have to figure out how to make. And I've got some ideas on how to throw that together. I'll get into that in just a second with some of his gear. But let's say that you were able to do like a 60% Leo hit or run 60-70% penetration, and somehow that math came out to where you took away half of the enemy's defense but had the same amount of attack. If you were able to have the same amount of attack, took away half their defense, basically you double your damage. So you're starting off at 200. That 200 would then crit at 400, we're saying units. So T12 units, so 400 units that you took out. Now, if you had the Magiwell on there with 150% damage or crit damage increaser, that would go up to 750 units. Now, with that same penetration attack that we talked about at 200, that would kill 200 units, if you put that into the formula with Mind's Eye, you'll see that you'd have 600 units that were killed over here. So there's a lot of play that you can do with his gear on the back end to hopefully possibly get some damage increase out of that, and I don't know, be the next guy that nobody saw coming. So there, if I'm gonna main him, what I want to do is I want to build some type of balanced build. Now the problem when you get into King is when you start talking about crit Wither, because you want to be able to maximize crit Wither, and if you're going to use a piece of equipment that has crit Wither built into it, how do you go against some of the big dogs in the game and build your gear without having to change a bunch of stones later and having to sit there and recycle a bunch of gear later? What are you looking to accomplish now? And what is that going to, that you can build into? You want to be able to do this game right. And that's why we put these videos out, we put these videos out because we've made the mistakes. We've gone through and we've suffered, and we want you to be able to have a little bit of a leg up. We want more builds out there. We want to see the next best king. So, Natural Whisper, if you're going to do a crit Wither with 120 or at 150, you really want to be able to awaken crit Wither on King, to go into Awakening. Go ahead and start Awakening King and get that thing up to 600. And the reason I say 600, you need every bit of that 600 when you're going to be fighting at a T12 level. I'll give you an example here. So the Origin, the T12 air units with max research, you're looking at 560% crit bonus. So to be able to take all the crit away from air and reduce them down to just their base attack damage, you need at least 560% crit Wither. That's hard to get outside of Awakening. It can be done with gear and Cassiopeia or and Capricorn if you're mixing it, but again, you're sacrificing a lot of gear that's out there. Just looking at it, the best way to accomplish crit Wither is to awaken it and then add a piece of equipment. If you just awakened it, you'd be at 600. At 560, you could do that. But if they start putting on a piece of equipment, or if you get into, they put on, the attack pants with crit built into it, I mean, it puts you outside of the crit Wither's realm. So you really need to have at least one piece of crit Wither if you're going to awaken crit Wither. Hopefully that made sense. But the main reason here is that if you start looking at the new T12 attack airships, They're at about 620. Yeah, 620. Yeah, 620 when it comes to their crit bonus. So you cannot awaken crit wither against T12 attack airships and wither their crit all by itself. You're going to need an additional piece of equipment. Yeah. The best that you can do, and I kind of ran the numbers with the gear here. The best that I could do is, with level 50 gear, you can get up to about 628. No, level 50 gear you can get up to 580 on the equipment. With level 40 gear, no, I take that back. Level 50 gear, if you did the 3-set gem set with Cephas, you could get up to 628% crit wither, which would be enough if you had all level 50 gear, and that was running Natural Whisper, the Phantom, and the Ambition with the Aegis Hull. Now at level 40 you could get up to 538, and that was including a 3-set Cephas, which is an air gem, so you're only getting the half-set benefit. You're not getting the actual air attributes if you're running walkers. So what you would need to do is have Capricorn as a skill set and hope that you're going to get at least one trigger that would put you over that 628 mark, which would allow you to then reduce them down to their base attack damage. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you guys are still tracking with me on that. It kind of lets you know what you're looking at as you advance into this game. So with that, I would actually run this. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that I would run this. I wouldn't want 2 pieces with crit wither on it if I'm going to awaken crit wither. So I'm probably going to have either... I wanted to go with Speed of God to get the Resistance Weaken effect and Invincible. And that's a pretty balanced build to me if you're going to go that route. Or because you're trying to look, you still want to get some Resistance Weaken effect in there. You're going to pick up another 30% on a half set of Taurus, plus, I don't know, 58% off of Aegis if you're running that. Or you could go to APOC where you're going to get 87%. But you really want to have between 150 to 250 Resistance Weaken effect in your gear, unless you're just a complete tear space build. King is not, because he has damage increaser skills. Damage increaser skills, you need to have some Resistance Weaken effect built into your gear. So the other build that I thought about doing with him, and again, this is the first build here, with 100% awakened crit wither. The second build that I really, kind of played around with, you're going to love this, is if we went to Shadow, threw in Phantom, because I still want dodge. I really, really, really want dodge. I got to have dodge somewhere. As a Walker Commander, it's so important to have a little bit of dodge. So we're going to put on Phantom. It carries dodge, damage reduction, and crit wither. And it'll probably have just enough crit wither to put me over if I have a 600% awakened crit wither with him. And then this is probably one of the only commanders that I would recommend going with the Holy Grail. You have damage reduction and penetration, and you're going to increase your HP. I'm probably going to want to use the older T12 just for the sweep factor, or just for the tear space factor. I'm just a big fan of walkers with tear space. You're not going to see too many walkers out there that are running the new walkers, especially with the crit wither meta. There's just not enough crit for us to build off of unless you're sacrificing too much gear to jump onto that, especially when airships have so much crit wither available to them. We're looking for alternatives here. You can run the Blue Hawk. It does have a higher crit percentage than the Void Skaters. But I like HP. I like HP when it comes to walkers, and so a lot of my builds are going to be around HP. You'll see total penetration as well as damage reduction. So you get a little penetration. Remember that penetration is going to help with that 300% damage increaser because it's taking away from the defense, and that's the total defense that the opponent has. So when you multiply your attack and divide it by defense, you're going to exponentially, as you saw in that graph, have a better return on your pound for pound investment. So yeah, those would be the two. All right, so let's go ahead and finish out with our gym setup on this. First and foremost, you definitely want to have number one. You want to have Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia is going to be a must just for the gym attributes themselves, but also the increased defense, which is going to help King. And obviously we don't have a lot of defense into the build, so that will help boost those sides of the stats, as well as the ability to go nominal, meaning that attributes like Dizzy or Virgo or Cephas won't be able to debuff your troop stack. Second one that you'd want to go with, you can either choose something like a Virgo that's going to be a debuff on the attack. It's going to let you go more rounds that second round, and so hopefully you're going to dwindle down their stacks where they're not able to come back at you as hard the second round. You can also do Capricorn, like we'd mentioned, just to push it over that 600 mark. You don't know if they're putting in crit gems or if they've added some crit gear onto their setup. If they have, you're going to want to make sure you didn't waste the other 600% crit wither that you had. If you can't get over the amount of crit chance that they have, you've wasted your entire awakening attribute. And so Capricorn could be a good setup for him. You can do a half set Taurus if you'd like to go ahead and get some resistance weaken effect if you feel like you're still wanting for that. And then if you were to do a guaranteed hit gem, the only guaranteed hit gem that I would recommend for King, again if you're running Tear Space, Mind's Eye does not trigger Tear Space, and so you want to have a guaranteed hit. And the idea of this build is really a medium build, that if they don't have enough dodge, then at least you're being able to dwindle them down with Tear Space and your attack. If they have too much dodge, now you're able to come back with your Mind's Eye. You also have the HP for survivability, but the HP isn't wasted. It can also be doubled up as a weapon with Tear Space. So you're really looking for that guy that can respond in any given situation. Mind's Eye will do that for you. Tear Space will do that for you. Running HP, and if you're running Leo as a guaranteed hit gem, it's the only guaranteed hit gem because you'll get one, the Tear Space trigger, but number two, the 60% ignore defense trigger, defense buffs. And you kind of saw the chart earlier about how that could push the attack damage up instead of just being a base attack. Could actually push the attack up a little bit to get you a little bit better return on your hit. So those would be the gems that I would go over. Outside of that, have fun, play around with this. Tell me your ideas on what you think might be better, or maybe I missed something that you caught throughout this video. We want to hear from you. So see you on the battlefield.